Right, so 820,000 beneficiaries so far indeed has gone a long way to help students access education. And Frank and Akisa, I will invite strictly 2 questions from students who are present here regarding that in just a second. But Mr. Ringera, I know there was a little bit of controversy some time back regarding this big burden of recovery, because it is a recovery kind of a revolving kind of a fund. And that statement that police officers would be used to go and, follow up on this. So what is the clear way forward since that announcement was made?
Thank you, Sharon. I think it is good, first of all, to get some numbers right so that maybe Professor Moga Kolare can get these numbers right. The budget of Kenya this year, up to June this year, is estimated to be at about 1.7 trillion shillings. 26% of that budget will be channeled to education sector. And when I mean education, I mean from ECD all the way to university. Universities will take 91 billion of that 425 billion that will be coming to higher education sector. Those universities are split between, out of the 74, there are 37 private and 37 public. It is estimated that there are 32,000 government-sponsored students in private universities. The government-sponsored students in private universities, out of that 91 billion, will get 2 billion shillings. The public universities students who are enrolled in public universities will get the balance of 89 billion shillings. So the myth of private university getting government students, you can now start seeing that I'm trying to unpack it with the numbers. TVET sector, where government seems to be moving towards a Marshall Plan on it, will get this year 16 billion Kenya shillings, and there are 142 TVET colleges across the country. If we do an analysis of last year's KCSE, out of 665,000 students who sat for KCSE last year, 90,588 this year, or 13.5%, will be joining universities. 264,000, or 40% of that 665,000, will be joining TVET colleges. And remember their figure, 16 billion shillings. The other side, 89 billion shillings. Now, that gives you a transition rate of about 53% from secondary to higher education, vis-a-vis a government Marshall Plan of 100% transition in primary to secondary. It has now hit 96% across. So I think those numbers will give you an explanation of where government priority programs are. We still insist that there is quite a huge chunk of money moving to universities. The question has been, and I like what Wakiaga was saying earlier on, that the problem is that we have relied on state only to be able to fund, university education. If you look at the West, there are a lot of endowment funds. There are a lot of private sector, because of what Professor Jalang was saying, where you are linking academic, industry to academic, which means Safaricom can be able to put money in academics so that they can produce the graduates they actually want. We must go to the basics and be able to discover what is our role as corporates so that we can be able to attract these grants and these endowment funds from private to public universities so that they can be able to have their students staying in college much better. Let me turn now my attention to what Sharon had asked. It is true we have spent in excess of 90 billion over the last, since 1974, to put in to graduate about 825,000 students. Out of that 90 billion that has been channeled, about 21 billion owed by 212,000 students has been paid back. And we really want to congratulate those very noble Kenyans who have seen the value of paying back so that another student can be able to get that money back. We have about 39 billion, which is owed by 303,000 students who are currently in college. We have another 156,000 Kenyans who are paying about 25 billion. And we have the problem that was highlighted of about 70,000 Kenyans who have decided that they will not pay back. So in the minister's, or the CS's, the former CS education announcement, there was a total misinterpretation of what she said. And I want to quote how she framed the quotation. She said, HELP will now use law enforcement agencies, there was no police anywhere, to track down Kenyans who are earning decently and they have refused to be patriotic enough to pay back. You can replay the clip 20 times, it will not change. That is what she said. Who is the law enforcement agent? Section 23, 24, and 25 of HELP Act Cap 213 gives us, as Higher Education Loans Board, the powers and authority and the delegated authority of ODPP to become law enforcement agents. Why? Every year, I'm allowed to sign inspectors who go out into corporate world to be able to inspect employers who have employing graduates and they are not remitting. And Section 16 of the Act gives us the power to levy penalties to those employers who are deducting and not remitting to the board, or who have refused to actually trace the graduates who are working within their organizations. So the law enforcement aspect is us, given by Section 23, 24, and 25, and also under delegated authority of Director of Public Prosecutions. And actually, looking at this space, we are looking at those corporates who have not paid us back. And currently, we have handed over 3 files to ODPP of corporates who have deducted money from Kenyans and they have not remitted to the board. Thank you.
Right. So we'll take one because in the interest of time, we'll take more questions during the Q&A session, which is at the top of the hour, 9 o'clock. So just one question for Mr. Ringera before we speak about public needs.
Thank you, Sharon. I think I should engage you, the host university here. Do you have a student from Daystar? Where are you? Come on.
Good evening. I just wanted to pose a question to Mr. Charles. Yeah? Why can't HELP establish entrepreneurship programs for those students who have defaulted payments, those students who have not yet gotten jobs, so as to be at a position to clear those loans? Oh, I'm Joan, a Daystar student, yes.
Yeah, just one quick one then, Mr.
A student this side, yes.
Hello, I'm a Daystar student. My question is the.
Hold up. Hold it up.
Okay, sorry. My question is for the people, for the industries. Universities give a lot of graduates every year, but when you go to apply, they say the least qualification they can get a graduate is 2 years. Others ask for 7 years. Others ask for 5 years. Isn't the industry involved when they're planning for, because if they produce students and they're not getting jobs, the help do not get paid, there is crime in the society, maybe the industry can be involved. Yes. Oh, sorry, I'm Cynthia Minor.
All right. I wanted one specific question to do with help before, so that Mr. Ringera can respond to that.
Thank you so much. My name is Imelda Uchari. I am the CEO of Teach International. It is an organization that works to increase access to education and improve living standards of the marginalized, with an aim of bridging the gap between the rich and the poor. Our concern is joblessness. And actually my question in regard to help, could it be that a lot of youth are not employed, and that is why they're not able to pay back the loans? And we've seen cases where a certain employer would prefer a graduate from a particular university and not the other. Could we have exchange programs so that we have universities learn from each other? The other thing is, we know very well that universities link their students to companies or organizations for internship or attachment purposes. So my question is, are we able also to have the university link their students to the job market the same way? Can we have universities get their students out to employers? Thank you very much.
Right, Mr. Ringera, I think we can respond to those two questions.
Thank you, Joanne. You know, this country, they say, we take care of your mandate and Jesus will take care of the others. So what happens, HELP is more concerned of providing resources for you to stay at the university. In terms of engagement work, let others think about, there are many bodies who have been established to be able to think about where you should go to work. I mean, you have TSC, which is absorbing people. You have now the internship program, which has been started by government. You have all these facilities that have been started by government. Actually, Honorable Sakaji, if you remember, has just passed an act in terms of employability of the youth. So there's no way we can boil the ocean. So we'll do our small thing, and we expect society to participate in terms of getting everybody on board. But then, having been concerned also about that, we have now started a small financial literacy program when you are getting into the university. So first of all, we will educate you that this is a loan, you need to pay it back. Year 2, before you apply, we'll again educate you, and you must also sit for an exam before you actually access our loan form. Year 2, we will start showing you that you don't always have to look for a job. You can be able to create a job, and we'll give you demonstrations of how you can be able to create a job. We are combining with people like Tujiajiri program of KCMB so that we can be able to create graduates who can be able to employ rather than actually looking for a job. We have also realized that the number of hours that the students are spending in class is not as much as the number of hours which are there the entire week. Towards this end, the board is thinking hard on how do we increase the productivity of our youth while they are in college. And we are now thinking of, getting devices. We are working with the Ministry of Communication so that we can get these graduates as a loan product, a laptop, so that they can get on online working. There's a lot of this this digital Ajira program, for example, by government, is offering a lot of opportunities for the youth to start working while they're actually in college. And for us to facilitate that, we are thinking if we provide a device, for example, that device can be used for coursework and also can be used to self-employ yourself while in college. So yes, we are doing something small in our own very small way, and we hope that will be able to assist. Cynthia, you have talked about industry experience. I think the youth internship program has been a major success in terms of getting that industry experience within the corporate world. But what Professor Jalang was saying is what will answer our problems, linking industry to academia. If academia is going to teach, when Vasco da Gama arrived in Mombasa and he is long dead, maybe it is good, but it is more important to know how to save a life which is about to die. And maybe somebody, when he wakes up from where he was about to die because you have resuscitated him, he can actually give you something to go home with. So I think we really need to introspect our faculties in terms of what they are delivering. But when I listen to Constance, he's saying maybe they are too overworked. There is no way they are going to review the curricula because they are quite overworked. But we think that is what will help us. That is why we have said, for us to be able to get our shilling back as quickly as we wanted, we are going to invest more on TVET so that those guys are getting out with a skill, and the employability rate is much higher than what we are seeing, in graduates. And we have started this program. We started with the nursing program, which is funded by USAID. I can tell you the chances of a nurse today graduating from our loan program being able to get a job within the first month of graduation is up to 98%. The chance of a humanities degree in this country being able to get a job within the first 3 years of graduation is about 54%. So as a lender, you can now see where the board really want to put its money is where money will come back quickly so that it can do interventions to the other future Kenyans who are coming on board. I agree with you, Imelda. Joblessness is actually affecting us. We are very worried. We are very concerned. The portfolio is misfiring because of that aspect of joblessness. But then, at the end of the day, we remind our students, or our graduates, or our loanees, there is nowhere in that contract of help we have said you must be able to get a job so that you can pay back. And that guy who was talking actually talked about that. We say we are going to give you 1 year after graduation to settle in life. Settling in life means a lot of things. You can create a job. There are many things you can do in terms of that settling. Because unless you pay back, future generations are going to have a lot of trouble in terms of them being able to access resources for higher education.
Right. And I see Professor Hiro wanted to add on to that. Before we go on we'll be going on a short break shortly for our 9 p.m. news, but we continue with the discussions. And more importantly, at this time, we'll be opening up the session so that we get questions flowed to our panelists. Professor.
Yeah, I like that input of student placement. I've just come from a public university to Daystar, and there is a whole office manned for student placement, attachment, companies, and the communication coming to my desk is unbelievable. From companies wanting graduates from this university to go for internship and also for employment. That is not true in public universities. We are interested in giving people the degree. Where they go is not our business. So maybe they can also learn, just like I'm learning, that if you have a fully fledged placement office, it helps a great deal. And you know, Daystar, our flagship is communication. Even Sharon here is a Daystarian, and I can name hundreds of them, yes. And they are just being snapped like this. Over this break we had, I met the standard group, and they were saying, yeah, we would like a partnership. We would like your students to come to our farm so that they can be exposed to the latest technology in various types of media. So I think it's true. We need to develop strategies, offices, where we expose our students. But again, what are you offering that is of value for industry to feel attracted to your students? I think that's the challenge we have. Thank you.
Right. And I know there's a lot of questions we have, and we'll be taking them in just a moment. But we're about to break for our 9 p.m. news. But before that, I'd like to take this opportunity. We have so much to talk about. We have to delve into special needs education, and is our system really inclusive, you know, of our special needs students? We have to talk about that, very important, and the students' welfare. Yeah? We have talked a lot about the hardware, infrastructure, and all that, but what about the students themselves? But before that, I want to take this opportunity to invite our CEO, Mr. Orlando Lyomu, just to say a little thing before we go on break, because the session after that will be continuing as we go on break. Mr. Orlando, please.
Good evening, distinguished guests, panelists, partners, ladies and gentlemen. I have a written speech, but I think after listening to what has been discussed here, I'll try and just keep it to a very minimal level of comments. But you'll all appreciate that when it comes to matters education, there's a lot that can be discussed. We can be here till morning, and I don't think we'll have exhausted the topic. I don't think we'll probably have reached consensus. But what we are glad to be doing as a standard group, and I believe this started a couple of weeks ago when we hosted another panel on education. And interestingly, it was just as, animated, as passionate as what we are seeing today. One thing we all have in common here is that we are products of exactly what is being discussed here. Maybe a few of us were lucky enough to go and study abroad, but most of us had to go through the system of education in this country. I keep telling people at no point in my education have I gone or been lucky to go outside the country for any certification or degree course. I'm a product of 844. Some people used to say 8 minus 4 minus 4 is equals to 0. Yeah. I went to the University of Nairobi. I can relate to some of the challenges that the faculty here are discussing. I was a beneficiary of HELB. I remember even before I got my first job, when I ringera, you'll be surprised that when I started getting something small, I walked up to Anniversary Towers, went up there, told them I want to start paying. They told me, okay, there's a bank downstairs, go pay and bring your deposit slip. Because I believed in that aspect that I had been enabled. It was my responsibility and duty to give back. It took me a lengthy 4 years, not 4 years, thank you, 9 years. But one thing I know is that I have my certificate of clearance somewhere nicely put away, because, you know, in case they ever lose their data, I'll need my analog evidence. But what I'm trying to say is that as a standard group, we understand that we have these challenges. We have these problems in our country. And I don't think it will be the responsibility of the universities alone. I don't think it will be government alone. And I don't think private sector alone can solve this problem. So as we have these conversations, we are trying to provide a platform that can, one, be the spark that makes people to start talking about some of these discussions. It was interesting when the TVET discussion has actually been mentioned. On the other side, as a standard group, and I'll be very proud to say this, is that we've been trying to also support the TVET side of the conversation. Why? It has been said here, you try looking for a competent plumber. You try looking for a good electrician who will not cross-wire things for you, so that when you switch on here, 10 other lights go on. You try look for a good painter. It's a challenge. And again, not all of us are cut out for the blue-collar jobs. Not all of us have the skill sets required to be accountants. But there are some who are gifted when it comes to their hands. So I really believe that the discussion that we're having today is the kind of discussion that should not be had only once. But if today we are having it, let it be the first in a series of many that can drive policy, that can drive, engagement. And eventually what we want is a good education system that churns out not graduates, but skills that are required in the labor market. As an employer today, I struggle when I look for competent people in various areas. Earlier I was discussing with my colleague and I said, where did critical thinking go? Are we not being trained to be critical thinkers in our education system? Because that's what the job market will need, and that's why the country needs if we are to take our industry to the next level. So I really want to thank everyone who has come here today. Thank you for honoring us and for accepting our invitation. Let the discourse continue, but most importantly, we want to make sure that when we come out of here, we would have at least started a discussion. We'll have started a discussion that hopefully shall push our conversations to the next level, be it response from government, be it response from the university management, or be it just students appreciating what this country can do for them. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Orlando, our CEO. We have just about a minute before we go on break, and I think it's a good time to take some voices of one or two students just on key issues affecting students' welfare, generally. Akisa.
All right. Once again, of course, tonight we're lucky enough to have people from every sector, every voice represented. And for the students, we have those who are student leaders, who have been student leaders previously. I can see Edwin Kegodi from Moi University. What are some of the issues? What are some of your comments about what we've already had here today?
Thank you. My name is Edwin Kegoli. I'm a former student president of Moi University. Professor Labanairo was my vice chancellor. Number one, there is the issue of balance of capital that we feel as students we need to have an environment that is supported by the government, most especially in the formation of wealth, so that students can, after graduation, can get some capital to start businesses other than looking for employment. Issue number two, we have something to do with agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism. And these are aspects that contribute immensely to the growth of our gross domestic product. And if universities can lay massive emphasis on these units, and then we are looking at a society that is growing not only its gross domestic product, but also creating wealth, ensuring there is salaries at the end of every month, and everybody has something to take home. Joblessness in the city. There's vast potential in rural communities. I've had the privilege of working with women and young people in our villages, and there goes untapped potential. So if the government can partner with interested parties, let's say like the media, KTN has been very vocal on empowering the voice of young people, so that we identify these potential young men and women who can contribute towards the growth of our economy, so that we deal with this issue of poverty in our villages and in our cities. Lastly, many university students, after graduating, feel like we're being sent into an ocean that is very stormy, yet we do not have that initial capital to jumpstart ourselves. And therefore, if there was a necessity to create a graduates fund, so that once somebody graduates, as they receive their certificate degree, they're given with a startup capital, with the business idea, so that at least they have a soft landing to implement the quality of education that they have received from the university. Because without it, what is quality education without an opportunity to practice it? Thank you.
Many thanks. And we'll pick up from that, but at this point I have to release our viewers who are watching us from home, but we are continuing with this discussion now because we have to break for our news back on the channel, but for our audience here, we are continuing. So for those who are watching from home, you can continue following this discussion on our social media platforms. Remember, the hashtag to use where we can trace your communication is hashtag TransformKenyaSG. Have a good evening.
Let's continue the conversation on our social media platforms to discuss higher education and its ability in enabling tomorrow's workforce. Transform Kenya. Empower our nation.
Right, and we're continuing with our conversation. Please don't walk out. We'll be done at about 9:30. So let's just stay together and wind up the conversation together. Akisa, you're taking some more voices on the student welfare.
All right, yes. The next 30 minutes is for you. Ask questions to the panelists, comments, what you think would be some of the possible solutions of the challenges and that have been talked about this evening. We'll quickly, before we go there, let's just give a chance for my representative from Kenya National Union of Teachers here.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah. Mwalimu oye. I want to say my name is Amunga. I'm a teacher, and I'm also the communications department in NAT. This conversation has been the greatest that we've ever had in a long time. Thank you very much to the members of the panel and the rest of us. It starts from the day one the child goes to school. And even funding should start from there. I don't know if we are aware that there is free primary education in this country, free secondary, free day school, secondary school, but there's no free ECD. ECD, they pay for it. ECD, children are going through a kind of unorganized syllabus. The Kenya Curriculum Institute has been rolling out a lot of things about grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Actually, we hear the rollout of the new curriculum is in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3. We are not hearing about rolling it out.
Mr. Munga, we are talking about higher education.
Yes, so I'm just going there. Thank you, sir. So I'm just saying, if we want to talk about the university and higher education, we must start from down here. If we want to talk about funding up there, we must start from down here. The problem we are having is that we are putting the cart before the horse. We are talking so much about big ideas up there, but we are forgetting that we need to start from down here. And I'm very glad that Professor Ahiro is here. He sat with us at KICD, and he gave us almost 21 reasons as to why he was finding it very difficult for the new curriculum to be rolled out. This new curriculum rolls up to the higher education. And it gave us several 21 issues. And we are saying this, as teachers and as stakeholders in this country, that if we want to talk about higher education in this nation, can we get it right? Right from Form 1, right from Standard 1, right from the ECD. Thank you very much.
All right. Yes, there is a sister here who wants also to contribute.
Thank you very much. I am Sister Professor Lando from Daystar University, School of Communication. I have a question for Professor Mwenda and then a comment. Sometimes we have opportunities or privileges to go out to further our studies for either first degree or second degree or even PhD. And that gives us an opportunity to interact with the universities outside the country, and so we get more experience and exposure. When we come back, the Commission for University Education requires recognition and equation of those certificates, which is good to safeguard against maybe quacks or fake degrees from out there. However, our challenge is the cost. The Commission for University Education charges Kenya shillings 6,000 for every degree that they recognize and equate. And if you get the service in the same day, you are charged 10,000 Kenyan shillings. Sometimes you've come back, there's not even a job already available. Sometimes you are struggling in our institutions where funding is an issue. So my request is, or a question, Prof, is it possible to lower that cost? Because all we get is a letter from the Commission for University Education to confirm that that degree is authentic from a recognized institution. 6,000 or 10,000 Kenyan shillings is a lot of money. Now, my brief comment. We have talked about quality in higher education, and we are focusing mainly on funding and physical facilities. That may be the case. I agree. We need all those things to be put in place. But there was a comment that was made by a student, elimu bora au bora elimu. So these are the students. Most universities tend to take their own graduates to become lecturers in their respective universities. We have a minimum entry requirement for university education, which is C+. What about in the universities? People whom we take to lecture for us. If you got someone who got into university because of Bora Elimu, and then we have such a person turned into a lecturer. So I want to say that as much as we are looking for solutions out there, from government, from other structures, from funding agencies, probably we need to look at the quality or the very lecturers that we have. In my view, we should go beyond just a profession. It's not just Bora lecturer. It must be lecturer Bora. Do we have a calling to teach in higher institutions of learning, or are we going there to get jobs? That, for me, is fundamental and also plays a key role in the quality of higher education. Thank you.
I think we'll have just one more for now and then throw it back to the panel.
Good evening. I am Moses Owitimbora, Secretary of KUPPET Nairobi branch. And Sharon has posed a question that is likely to give us direction. Do we now move towards what should be done? And that is what I'm likely to do. Allow me to say that when there was the story of contraband sugar in Kenya, I offered myself in a certain office that was dealing with contraband or investigating, and I told them that this sugar, which is worth 1.8 billion shillings, I can convert it into another legal product that will give you 2.5 billion shillings. Would you allow me to write a proposal on how this can be done, and I direct you to where it shall be done? I was told you will encourage importation of contraband sugar. It was poured into Indian Ocean, the 1.8 billion contraband sugar. Others got lost. They came back, other quantities came back to the market. That takes me to the next level. Do we really value innovation in Kenya? That is a very difficult question to answer straight. But allow me to say this. To Bwana Wasonga, Dr. Wasonga, Professor Muga Kolale has gone, or he's here. Now that the students are few in the universities because of what is happening, please reduce your semesters to 2, take sabbatical leave, focus on research, but as you do that, focus on innovation that can raise funds for the endowment funds within the departments or faculties that exist with such kind of programs. And how should you do it? I pose a question. I have refused to go and take a PhD in chemistry because I am a scholar of chemistry, because I cannot pay almost 750,000 to 1.5 million shillings, then I will not be employed because I will be interviewed according to my tribe. I cannot go for that program if I know that the innovation that I will carry out through my research in the university, that innovation shall remain the property of the university. Are you aware that intellectual property right can be shared so that it does not become a wholesome 100% property of the university? Why would somebody waste money, a person who can conduct research on a novel product or service, to go through programs, carry out or innovate on something, then leave it for the university? When we have our teacher who had sacrificed his 80% of salary and is now being given 100 million shillings. Somebody has recognized him with 100 million shillings. So, go back to the drawing board. Tell the university councils, the vice chancellors, revise this part of the law that governs innovations in the universities, and it will even help lecturers who conduct research in the universities. Why should we grow the hub that is used for extracting artemisinin in Uasin Gishu, then it is exported to China, then you get ATC in Kenya? When that can be done here, and if the law that allows sharing of profits of property right is revised, it can enable the person who is doing that probably to get 30%, university to get 30%, and probably the government to get 40% because it was also funding. Think about that. That is my contribution. Thank you.
Right. I think let's let Professor to answer to that question on the cost, the question by sister, and then we need to speak about special needs in a bit.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. Sister, I hear your question. I'm sure there is a lot of thought that went into the cost that we have for this work. I think that's good feedback from your side. We would like to consider it, but also see the cost of what we do as a professional body. But we are open to those kinds of feedback that we get from our stakeholders. Thank you.
Let's speak about special needs education and inclusion. And I know we have representation from the Kenya Institute of Special Education, and the director is actually right here with us. But we have quite some statistics here that will frame our conversation, talking about the prevalence of disabilities and the needs of students, special needs students. And we'll just be running that on our screens shortly. Right, and this just shows the prevalence of the special needs in education. We have learners who have one or another form of disability, forming up to 11% of the students' population. This is running all from elementary studies all to the higher education. 11%, that is not a small number, and of course calls for recognizing their needs and actually, in terms of policy and infrastructure and means of delivery, their inclusion. We just have enumerated all those figures there from talking about the specific kind of disabilities and prevalence amongst the students in Kenya. And maybe, Frank, we can have that conversation with the director just to speak about what challenges, what unique challenges does this cadre of students face, and are we moving forward in terms of this big conversation of inclusion. And we also have to thank them tonight because they're the ones who have made it possible for us to have a sign language interpreter tonight. So maybe we can even give them a clap for that because it's very important. Frank.
Thank you, Sharon. I want just to confirm that we have got Mr. Timothy Wambua Mutiso in the house. Thank you, sir, for coming. That is the director in charge of Kenya Institute of Special Education. And Mr. Mutiso, maybe I just wanted to pick your mind on, do you have any concerns about the placement of students who really want to fit into the job market, but they have got those challenges? So maybe you want to pick up on with the people who are in charge of placements and so on.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I was just waiting for this moment. I thought you have forgotten us.
No, we can't.
Because it's, for me, I think we really want to be part of Transform Kenya.
Yes.
As KISE, I'm the director, KISE. KISE is Kenya Institute of Special Education, but most people know it as KISE. We at Kasarani. This is one institute where you'll find a wealth of expertise and experience on all matters, special needs and disabilities in this country. Now, you've just seen some statistics there. That's a countrywide survey which was done last year. It was done 2017, and the report was launched by the CS then last year and the PS. And you can see the statistics that we have 11% prevalence of disability in this country. That was a survey done between the ages of 3 and 21. We just needed to know what disabilities are in this country and what is the percentage. And where are they in which particular area? Some of them are in some particular areas. Now, I was a bit disturbed as I was sitting here when we are not getting an opportunity, because one of the major mandates of KISE is to do research on matters disability. This was done 2017. But we've gone ahead and this year and felt we need to find out in our tertiary institutions what is the prevalence or are they really being accommodated, people with disabilities? Are they being accommodated in our vocational institutions? Are they in the national polytechnics? Are they in the TVET institutions? And we are going to launch this particular report sometimes in June. But we already have a feel of what is in the field. If you go to the national polytechnics, you will find very few people with disabilities having been accommodated. If you go to the technical institutions, again, the numbers are very minimal of people with any form of disabilities. We've been trying to find out why is it. And what really came out in some of these institutions is that they do not have the right infrastructure. They do not have tutors who have skills to handle these people with disabilities. But it's interesting because when you go to the vocational, the village polytechnics, there are very many people who have these disabilities. What we notice is that these people in the vocational institutions are basically doing the traditional vocations like tailoring and shoemaking. But we are asking ourselves, are we saying that people with disabilities cannot fit in our tertiary institutions? Apparently, it's also sad in the universities. Other than Kenyatta University, which has really taken quite a number of people with disabilities, if you check the other national universities, the people with disabilities are very few. And I think it's time we start thinking, are we really discriminating against these people? People with disabilities, some of them are very intelligent. And some of them can do any task. They can achieve any degree, they can achieve any form of academic excellence given the opportunity. So why is it And I want to challenge the people in the universities who are here. I want to challenge people in the national polytechnics who are here. Why is it that we are not allowing these people? Why is it that we are not giving these people opportunity? Once we publish this report, you will see the statistics. It's so glaring. And for us as KISE, as the fraternity of KISE, we think we need to change the way we are handling people with disabilities. We should give them an opportunity, just like any other. If you take a country like Israel, everybody is taken on board right from an early age. In fact, they just do tests and find out if you have this particular disability and you cannot fit in this cause, what is it we can do for you so that you don't beg? And I think that is what we need to start thinking about this country. We give opportunities to all these people so that they don't beg. And one important thing I would say is that we really need to continue. One issue which came out again was the issues of the matters of pedagogy in those particular institutions. I'm sure if we focus and we say that this is a priority area for this particular people, because they're also part of our society. And at home, in our own particular homes, we don't throw away or we don't hide those people with disabilities. We embrace them. I want to challenge everybody here that we embrace even those people with disabilities. Thinking about the 100% transition, we are now transiting 100% from primary to secondary. I'm sure among those people, there are very many people with disabilities. Are we thinking about what we will do to that big number now, which will be coming on board? Are we thinking in terms of what opportunities we'll give them in the various institutions? I think that's one area which, as we talk about transforming Kenya, even those people with disabilities are part of Kenya. We need to move along with them in terms of transform Kenya.
Right.
That's very important. And I think that's our case. And I want to say that in KISE, we have a lot of data on disabilities and matters disability. And anybody is free to come to us and get that data.
Right.
We're actually even doing now, we have just finalized a report, research on learners with disabilities in class 1 to 3. Right. Are the teachers able to notice those learners with disabilities? Not just the physical disabilities like visual impairment and hearing impairment. Even learning is a special need. Learning disability is a special need. So we are trying to find out, are our teachers equipped?
Right.
Are they able to notice a student who has a disability? I think that's something we need to think about as we talk about transforming Kenya, as we talk about education in Kenya.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Maybe, Sharon, through your chair, allow me to inquire from Mr. Mutiso whether you are really concerned about the buildings in the universities and colleges in terms of infrastructure. Are they friendly to the people living with disability?
Like I said, as we were doing the research on the TVET and the national polytechnics, I've just mentioned one of the biggest issues is infrastructure. Infrastructure is where they don't have the ramps, they don't know, they are not able, people with disabilities are not able to navigate in their institutions properly. And I think we didn't do a research in the universities, but I think that could be the same story. I think so.
And in fact, in that aspect, I think I would really want us to give a chance to a lady there that is coming directly from KISE. She really wants to share with us how she got into this place with a lot of difficulty and so on, so that we appreciate that these people really need to be taken care of.
Good evening. I'm Trufena Mbeke from Kenya Institute of Special Education. And I would say that when I arrived, I was like, okay, how do I get down the stairs? But at least I'm not so severely disabled, and that means I was able. But I would say that, you know, most universities, I would say, because I learned in Kenyatta, there are so many, you know, there are so many infrastructural accessibility no, I didn't face challenges in KU, except moving from one class to another, because when I arrived, actually, there were no tuk-tuks to take us from one class to another. And at one point, because I had a class, for those who know KU, in home science department, and I had to go to another one in complex, and therefore I had to leave 15 minutes early from the other end and miss 15 minutes into the other class. But at least, the lecturers were so kind. Once my lecturers got to know, they would, escort me to the next class. But I would say that Kenyatta University is one of the universities with the best practices. They have actually ensured they have a resource room, and they have facilities for people with disability. And one thing I would say that we should actually benchmark from best practices as universities. And even when we come to curriculum, we are talking about, employers looking for graduates from maybe Daystar University, maybe from USIU. Why can't we benchmark with those universities that offer best practices so that at least we can also practice the same? We are talking about collaboration. It means that now we are talking about collaboration with even employers. It means that they should come and we even do curriculum together so that we know exactly what they want us to produce to them in the job market. Even when it comes to disabled people, how do we want to have a level playground so that they can also compete fairly with others who are not disabled? So we should ensure that actually there are facilities to accommodate them. We should actually provide accommodations that could actually accommodate these people so that they can actually have a fair playground. If we provide transport, yes, they'll be able to reach where they are going. If we provide technology for those who cannot, for the blind, for example, like the JOs, they'll be able to use computers and be able to study just like any other person. So we should actually just provide the accommodation that will enable them, succeed just like any other person in institutions of higher learning. Now going back, I'm going to Union. Union, I have a problem. With the policies at TSC, we only accept bilateral scholarships and government scholarships. And those are very few for people, for Kenyans. And sometimes we go out of our way to look for private scholarships. Unfortunately, when you get a private scholarship, you don't get study leave with pay. And it becomes so difficult, you are between a rock and a hard stone, and sometimes it's like, do I go and leave my family behind without, funding to help them continue while I'm away? Or should I just let go of the scholarship? So I think some of those policies should change to help teachers to develop professionally. Thank you very much.
All right, many thanks. And we'll come for 2 last questions in just a short while. But maybe we can take a comment on that, on the special needs. But a question that we need to address has come up as a concern even from the students seated here, and I'll direct it to you, Dr. Wakiaga. Talking about the synergy between the labor market and our institutions. Are we as institutions, forecasting, the needs of the future or responding to the needs of the market? How are we teaching? Are we overtraining in some, disciplines which then become redundant in the market? Is there a need to look at this approach?
Sharon, I think the professor who was here, I can't remember his name, Jalango.
Jalango.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of continued with the theme. I think I'd even mentioned it earlier on in terms of the synergy between the corporate or the industry together with the universities and also the government. Okay, so how do those 3 elements actually come together? Now, as I said earlier on, there are so many moving parts to this discussion. It's not a very simple matter, and I think the Standard Group CEO said that we would spend, up to morning talking about solutions to education. So it is such a big challenge because universities, and I know it's been mentioned here, public universities grappling with issues of resources. It is also the same in private. Private are also grappling with issues of funding. It's just, I guess maybe they are less quiet about it than public institutions. So they are fighting to survive. And because they are fighting to survive, a lot of programs or a lot of courses are going to be offered in the social sciences just because they want to stay afloat. And because they want to stay afloat, they are going to offer programs that are cheaper to offer. And because of that, it becomes then a vicious cycle. Because, okay, you want to survive for the short term, offer these courses, but then these individuals then go into the market, and then they find that whatever course that they have done, that particular course is flooded in the market. And the challenge then that comes with that is that it makes the employers be like the beautiful girl who is being sought by everyone. And they at that point, then they become choosy. Because if you have too many people, then you say, oh, I don't have to take this person. Or even they will offer less salary. And we've also had a report, I think it came out in 2016, whereby now we are having a situation where those who are having master's degrees are going for bachelor's jobs that are supposed to be occupied by those who have bachelors. And those who have bachelors are going to look for jobs for those who are supposed to, for diploma holders. So then this becomes a challenge, and it's a vicious cycle. So then how do we work together, all these three elements, in terms of making sure that we just train enough? And I think Mr. Misori talked about that earlier on, where you just train enough that are relevant, and then open the mid-level institutions. And my colleague here from HELB also talked about that, promoting TVET. So it's not a one-man show. It has to be concerted effort from all the three components. Right. And if you can just allow me just 1 minute to mention something, something that had been talked about with regards to the students. Sure. I think the students, they are the beneficiaries of what we do. Really, without the students, then we would not even be having this conversation in the first place. Mm-hmm. But I think the university student has not been given dignity as a university student. Mm-hmm. And when I look at the times I was in the university, which by that time, and Mr. Orlando, I'm also 844, first 844, very proud to be one. And by that time, we went for 1 year, we had the 50-40 that used to come, and then shortly after that, now it was, we used to call it pay as you eat. Okay, so pay as you eat came, and gradually we started seeing a lot of degeneration of campus life. And nowadays, the students are in even worse situations than I think even our time. When you look at students nowadays, they have to hustle to be able to pay for school and for their upkeep. They live in the most squalid conditions. So if they have to live, and with all due respect, you find a university student who has to live in a one-room Mabati house and has to probably share sanitation facilities with, I don't know, a plethora of many other people. This is the same person you are expecting to graduate with dignity, go into the workplace and provide better quality service, or to provide quality service for the rest of the population. It cannot happen. You cannot give what you don't have. So we really have to think about, even for our students, what kind of environment are we creating for them when they join the institutions? Are they able to graduate with dignity? This quality we are talking about is not only quality in terms of the cognitive, right, but it is also quality in terms of the social interactions. Mm-hmm. Because if they come out and they don't have dignity, even when they go into the workplace, they'll not have dignity. Mm-hmm. And all this will be a domino effect into the larger society. Right. I really wanted to bring out that point very quickly. And then also to Kise, I just wanted to say one thing very quickly. Some of our institutions really are doing something to accommodate those with disabilities, and not that Napigia Debe, my institution. But then when we talk about issues of how are institutions doing research to be able to make sure that their environments, they're able to attract funding for their environments. Just recently, one of our staff was able to apply for funding from the European Union. And when the funding came, the institution gave her an opportunity to lead that office because she's the one who actually applied for that funding. And now even us as faculty, we are having training sessions whereby we are being taught on how to better accommodate individuals with disability. We have ramps in our institution, we have lifts, we have braille on the doors. So I think if you do a little bit of more study, you'll realize, and I'm not saying our institution is unique, it's just what I know. But I'm probably sure maybe the other institutions that are also doing something similar. Thank you, Sharon.
Right, thanks, Doc. I remember my time here at Daystar, I also had physically disabled classmates, and through the 4 years, were able to, manage comfortably. So at this point, I know there's still a number of questions, but we are really out of time because we have only 6 minutes to be out, and I want us to use this minute to just get our closing remarks from our panelists, and I'll start with you, Mr. Missouri, and I'll ask you to make it very brief so that we wind up in time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think I've been touched with what has come from Kise, and I think we'll take it up, especially at policy level. That is a very sensitive matter because it requires negotiations with the employer on the terms and conditions of how they guarantee those scholarships. I think this one, we had never seen this one was going to be an exception because we had been talking about generally about scholarships. That is great. But I want to hasten to say here that it has been a great moment. What we need to do as Kenyans is to have the student as the focus of our attention, especially in education. But we must also prioritize education. If we want to go to the next level, that education must be prioritized at the policy level, in our institutions, so that we give meaningful impetus on the education that we have for the nation, because it is what drives our economy. So we cannot just let it to be up for market forces where commerce now overrides quality. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Prof.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank the Standard Group and KTN for changing the venue. For once from Strathmore to Daystar. And you can see we have what it takes, we have the facilities. But I also want to plead to everybody here to go out there and know that there's a new dawn in Daystar. We have a very strong purpose to become the best private university in Kenya. We want to prove a point. And Daystar is faith-based, Christian-based. So the values we are crying about in society, our curriculum is integrated. And go to our hostels in Athi River and you see how students are taken care of. You would think you are in the US. So please broadcast the name of Daystar and tell them they have a serious vice chancellor. Thank you.
I want to thank the Standard Group. I want to thank I think it was Sharon and Frank who kept following up on this. It's been a pleasure. I want to say that as a community, as a society, we want to focus on the student. At the Commission for University Education, in our 2019-2023 strategic plan, we've made the student our key stakeholder, which allows us to now come to universities and use that as a gauge, which ties into all aspects, the student welfare, the learning, the facilities, and all that. But also let me say that we are in this together. Let us not point fingers. Let us do our part. Let us help each other. Let us support each other. Number 3, let us use technology well to also serve this sector. I don't see why we cannot each use the resources we have in our universities to service other needs in other institutions, so that we can do work of key lectures that are done by some of the experts in one institution and that are then accessed by others. And I think finally, let me say that access also means the ability for people with disabilities or people who are differently abled to also have the right kind of access, the best quality of education, because the way we treat our most vulnerable is what makes us who we are as a good nation. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. I want to thank definitely the Standard Group and also Daystar for having hosted us. I was imagining 6 to 9 p.m. What am I going to say for 3 hours? But time has really flown and it has been really, really informative. And I'm glad that in this education conversation, finally higher education has been given an opportunity. Now for my closing, I'll just talk about, or I just mention 2 things. Number 1 is synergy. There has to be synergy between industry, government, and the universities, and this has already been talked about severally. So with synergy, we know that the sum of the whole is stronger than the sum of individual parts. And Professor here has just said we are in it together. We cannot do it individually and in our silos. Then the other thing I would want to say is, let us be learning organizations. We have to be learning organizations. Open our minds to new things, to new innovations, and even for us who are educators in higher education, let us not be stuck in our old ways. Tabachi has shown us that it is not the resources, rather it is a willing heart. And Sister also said here that we really have to reflect within ourselves and then determine, do I have a calling to teach? And Tabachi really showed us that. And that's why he's now the global best teacher at the moment. Okay, and then finally, collaboration. Even as we are learning organizations, we have to learn from each other. Let's not have this university wanting to say we are the best in this, and so we are not, it's like we are hiding the knowledge that we have. Let us share so that whether it is public, whether it is private, whether it's private or public, all of us are learning together and sharing best practices and strengthening education in Kenya as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Sharon. Let me also join others in thanking the Standard Group for hosting this discourse. I agree that we must continue with this conversation into the long future. Otherwise, there is no way government only can do this job. We got to get the corporate on board. We have a social problem in terms of unemployment. We must be able to cure it. Otherwise, we are not going to create safe spaces for our youth. And therefore, for us to be able to do this, when I was growing up in the village, I was told that a young boy or a young girl is raised by the village. So government is just part of that village. You are the other person or leg in the village. We have done a cocktail of funding. So government to fund at about between 42 and 60,000. We now know that for a student to live well in a university requires about 122,000. We are combining with willing counties and constituencies to be able to lift, that quantum that we are supposed to be giving the student. So counties like Kakamega, Busia, Taita Taveta, they have done extremely well in terms of resourcing funds with us so that we can then be able to give these students. We have corporates who have joined us, people like Barclays Bank, people like Stanchart who have joined with us so that we can create a huge pool. I strongly believe we have enough resources in this country to be able to make good interventions to our students in the universities. And then finally, Moses, go back and do your PhD. Go to our hashtag www.help.co.ke/jielimishe. Tulikuelimisha, sasa kuja uombe mkopo ujielimishe. We will give you for PhD up to 600,000 so that you can jielimisha, so that you can become a better productive member of society. Thank you.
Thank you very much from UWASU. We want to thank the Standard Media Group. And we want to say that we'd like to have this conversation frequently so that we shape how we run higher education sector. But more importantly, I think the problem in university derives itself from the weak University Act. The University Act should be overhauled on how we appoint vice chancellors, how we appoint councils, because councils are supposed to be the managers of universities. But imagine in those councils, we don't have union representatives, we don't have student representatives. Even the vice chancellor is an ex-officio member. So it means outsiders can run the affairs of the university without any member of the university community. 2, we need also to change how we negotiate CBAs in our universities so that we don't resort to strikes. I said that lecturers in public universities are demoralized. Imagine a government awarding university lecturers 1.75% for 4 years, which translated to 53 Kenya shillings. That was an abuse. And I want to say, lecturers are not happy. A demoralized lecturer cannot offer quality higher education. 3, help. Enhance what you give students. Students are suffering. What you give them cannot maintain them for a semester. If you go to the mess where students are eating, a student is buying skuma wiki and a small piece of ugali. If you want to sponsor them fully. Three, the Commission for University Education owes Kenyans and universities an apology. You went to the air, announced that we have useless degrees. I want to say that from where I sit, we don't have useless degrees. I don't know whether you want to operate as a super senate. It is senates that approve programs. But now, you went, the whole world knows that in Kenya, Kenyans is offering useless degrees. Where will our graduates go to? Because you will be asked, is your degree useless? That was a very, very big mistake. And I expect Commission for University Education to buy a big space in Standard, because we are here, to apologize and tell the whole world, in Kenya, we don't offer useless degrees. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just please stay with me on the stage for a moment. We want to take a few feedback from the followers our viewers who've been following us on different platforms and online. Just a few feedback. Akisa.
The conversation online is just as vibrant as is here on this very platform, on the hashtag Transform Kenya SG. This is a conversation, like our CEO said, that we cannot finish in a day, so we'll continue to have it on different platforms, on various areas, thematic areas. So Maingi Thumbi on Twitter says, we have allowed the political class to decide for their professionals. Therefore, we are running our universities politically. That's something that was also mentioned here earlier on. Dr. Wandia Njoya says, we should delink degrees from promotion and employment. Education institutions should stop doing the work of sorting employees for employers. If education benefits employers, let employers provide and pay for it. Nahashon Adero has been very active throughout the entire night. He says, Elimu Bora versus Bora Elimu dichotomy is born out of a training culture which has missed out on the basics because the true philosophy and value of education is not emphasized from basic levels. Education goes beyond writing exams and getting jobs. And finally, Robert Miawa says, most students are pushed to choose courses or change because they missed some points. Students should proceed to study what their heart desires. this will improve performance at work. I could go on and on. There are a lot of feedback, a lot of tweets, concerns, comments, questions from those on Twitter. As I said, the conversation there remains as vibrant as is here, hence why Transform Kenya SG has been trending since we started at 6 p.m. and still is, till now, about 4 hours later. But as we wind up, of course, as much as we are thanking you here tonight, we thank those who have continued to stick with us throughout the conversation on social media. Back to you, Sharon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Akisa, and thank you for those who've been following this conversation on our different platforms. And thank you so much for those of you who sat with us here as we have this conversation. I want to thank our panelists for your time and your insights in this absolutely important matter that we are discussing. Akelo Mizori, who is the Secretary General of KUPPET, Professor Laban Airo, who is the Vice Chancellor here at Daystar, Professor Mwenda Twiranga, I hope I got it right, Twangira, sorry, who is the CEO of CUE, sorry sir, and Dr. Lucy Wakiaga, who is a senior lecturer at Tangaza University College, Mr. Charles Ringera, CEO of HELB, and Dr. Constantine Wasonga, SecGen of WASU. Many thanks. Let's give them a round of applause. So indeed, it's a conversation that we can't have. It doesn't end here, so let's continue having it in our different platforms. And as we wind up, our former Ghanaian president, John Kufuor, said that education, and particularly higher education, is what will take Africa into the mainstream of globalization. Are we positioning ourselves right to take that opportunity? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good night.
Anansi, 4 a.m., forget the ice cream, and Bubblehead be able to submit to us what is it that they did in the best way that they could. What we looked for, it looks like it's a template. I'm going to borrow from you guys because it's actually the same thing. One of them was to look at the longevity of the animation. How long can it go? Can it be an IP product that can continue generating more and more income, not only to the persons, but to other animators? Can they be able to, have a show on TV that can continue on? And is it even possible when it's, because one of the awards is the person is going to be given, yes, the 500,000, but it's also going to be, they're going to be taken to the Annecy to go and pitch there and look for, additional and further funding. How is it going to rank internationally? Does it work? Does it make sense? And of course, that ties into the story.
Our nation.